Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with today's guest, but first, let's hear from our podcast sponsors. We want to thank Huddle for their support of Wednesday Wisdom. At Huddle, we power sports. Over 200,000 teams use Huddle to elevate the performance of their teams with video and analytics. Huddle's the complete performance platform. They have online tools, smart cameras like the Huddle Focus. There's always been analytics, but there's a whole lot more. Huddle is also built for every level of play, from club and youth teams all the way through high school and college programs, and even the pros use Huddle to help their teams play at the highest level. You're in pretty good company with over 6 million users, including your student athletes and the college coaches you're trying to get to recruit them. If you want to find out more about what Huddle can do for you and your program and how your school can become a Huddle school, go to huddle.com and talk to their professionals. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. We also want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack for their support. Remember, athletic surveys are quick, easy, and affordable ways for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic program. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack also connects you with the 95% of the parents and the student athletes that really love your program. And it gives them a voice to help demonstrate the importance that a positive athletic experience has for them. Go to athleticsurveys.com and check out their testimonials, and then give them a call at 1-800-738-6466, or you can email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Talk to the pros at Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack and let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. We also want to thank Sideline Interactive. You know, Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables and video boards can generate $10,000 or more every year, while also creating the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or call them at 832-786-0302 to schedule a live web demo and see their tables and boards in action. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com and see exactly what these fantastic products can do for you. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com. Their customer service is just as good as their product. We also want to thank Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. You know, their mission is to bring your school's legacy to life. They've got a variety of interactive touchscreen consoles and an entire library of templates to help recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. Let them help you showcase your school's diverse history and your proudest moments by going to vitalsciencewalloffame.com. You can also call them at 614-981-3589 or send them an email to sales@vitalsciencewalloffame.com. That's sales@vitalsciencewalloffame.com. And we also want to say thanks to Final Forms, the industry leader in forms. But Final Forms is more than just forms. Final Forms is a team, it's technology, and it's a service that provides your stakeholders with compliance, communication, and risk management solutions. Final Forms can also help your parents with things like mobile accessibility, reminders about policies and physicals and all the forms that go along with athletics. Final Forms can help with team communication and attendance and certification management for coaches. And for athletic directors, Final Forms can help with eligibility, with rosters, and all the reports that come across your desk. And it does this using secure language translation and ADA compliance. You know, it's time for you to talk to a team that's walked in your shoes. To take the next steps and find out what Final Forms can do for you, go to finalforms.com/Jake. That's finalforms.com/Jake to get started. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Wednesday Wisdom. This is our third round with our panel of 10 experts from the world of sports, but they each take it from a little bit different angle. Our guest today is our original guest, and actually the person who came up with the name for our series, Wednesday Wisdom, the great Betsy Butterick, the communication coach. Betsy, how's it going? And what do you have for us this week?
It is going well, Jake. I have two small shifts for you this week, and both of them originated in a coaching context. So, conversations I was having with a coach, they're absolutely applicable outside of coaching, whether you're an athletic director or simply a human wanting to communicate with another human. The first one, the context was I was observing a practice, and what I heard the coach say to an athlete is something that we hear a lot, and it's very common and it's well intentioned. And the phrase was, "Great job. That's what I like to see." And I thought, okay, this is very common. And yet, the difference between intention and impact, and that's something that I know you and I have spoken about a lot. Positive intention, I want to validate the fact that this athlete has just done something that I want to see more of in the future. Unintended impact, when we say that's what I like to see or that's what I want to see, what we're unintentionally doing is asking, even subconsciously, for the athlete to perform to please us rather than to perform simply because they have the ability. So a shift might be, great job, that was a good decision, or good job, that was a great decision, instead of great job, that's what I like to see. Even shifting I hear coaches say all the time, nice, that's what I want, right? It's like, nice, that's what we need. So when we take ourselves out of the center of the validation and instead put it back on the student athlete or on their skill or on their decision making, we're doing, I think, a better job validating and reinforcing the behavior that we want while also taking ourselves out of the equation. Because when you have athletes that are continually performing to please instead of performing because they're able, it changes the dynamic of a practice.
Again, you and I talked about that impact and intention
Mm-hmm.
concept. Let me, I hope I'm not getting ahead of myself here, but, for an old coach, like me,
Older. We're going to say older.
um, I think most of us or many of us, we coach the way that we were coached.
For sure.
And, that you grew up as, a kid, a high school, college athlete, maybe you did want to please your coach. But I understand perfectly what you're trying to say. What are some tips that, old coaches or younger coaches can use to help accomplish what you're sharing today?
Right. And there's a lot of truth in what you just said, Jacob. For many athletes, I do want to please my coach. I want to
Mhm.
do a good job. I think there's a difference between an individual athlete wanting to perform well so that their coach is happy versus being asked or told to perform well so that their coach is happy, right? So it's an individual decision versus a request, even again, a subconscious or unintended request simply by the use of language that the coach is making. A great exercise that any coach can do, whether you've been in the game a long time or you're new to the sport, is to record yourself. Just record yourself. Keep your phone in your pocket, put it on record, put headphones in, depending on your sport. And I say headphones for privacy reasons. We never want to record anyone without them knowing. But even if you told your team, hey, I'm working on the language that I use when I coach, today I'm going to be recording practice simply so I can hear what I'm saying without having to think about it in real time. Just get kind of a sample that I can use to work on my growth and development as a professional. Listening to what you say and then making those small shifts. Oftentimes, the biggest difference in the way that we communicate and connect with people isn't a total overhaul of our language or the way that we converse. It's these small shifts that anyone can make to start to be more intentional about the way that they communicate and connect.
Well, I think if a coach did that, again, you guys always do such a great job of inspiring me. It makes me almost wish I was back coaching again. But I think if a coach shared that with their team before practice, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm trying to get better. I can't imagine that wouldn't have a great impact on the kids. About wow, coach is trying to get better too. So
Yeah, yeah.
what a great tip. We're going to take a quick break, but we're going to be back, and we'll do this at the end. But Betsy, if one of our listeners wants to reach out and pick your brain a little bit more, and I think some already have done that, what's the best way that they can get in touch with you?
Absolutely. You can simply go to betsybutterick.com. There's a contact form on the website. You can also connect to all of my social media through there. You can find me on Twitter at Betsy Butterick or on Instagram at Betsy underscore the coach's coach. Any of those would be a great way to connect, and I'll follow back up via email.
Okay. And if you haven't heard, Betsy was recently a guest on another athletic director podcast, actually the one that had me on it as a guest a long time ago that inspired me to start my own podcast. Don Baker and Josh Matthews, great podcast, Hanging with the AD. They were hanging with Betsy Butterick, the communication coach. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back with some more. This is Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank Final Forms for their support of Wednesday Wisdom and the podcast. Final Forms is the industry leader in forms and registration, but Final Forms is more than just forms. Final Forms is a team, it's technology, and it provides schools with compliance, communication, and risk management solutions. Final Forms can help your stakeholders with things like mobile accessibility, and has reminders for parents about policies, about physicals, and all the forms that go with athletics. Final Forms can also help with team communication and attendance and even certification management for coaches. And for athletic directors, Final Forms helps with eligibility, with rosters, and all the reports that come across your desk. And it does this using secure language translation and ADA compliance. It's time for you to talk to a team that's walked in your shoes, to take the next steps and find out what Final Forms can do for you and your program. Go to finalforms.com/Jake. Once again, go to finalforms.com/Jake to get started with the good folks at Final Forms. Welcome back, everyone, to Wednesday Wisdom. Our guest today is Betsy Butterick, the communication coach. Betsy, we were talking about, or you were talking about shifts, small shifts that coaches and leaders can do to help their team, their athletes, the people they're working with. What are some other tips for our listeners?
Sure, Jake. This one came again from a conversation I was having with a coach, and the shift is applicable to anybody, again, in or out of sport. The conversation was around the disappointment of a senior student athlete who told the coach after senior weekend about something that was important to them. And the coach was retelling the story to me, and she said, well, I told her, if it was important to you, you should have told me. What's interesting about that statement, and again, very common statement, I can think back, and I've likely said that at some point in my life as well. Common statement, and yet the challenge is, if it was important, you should have told me. We're placing blame in a situation that already involves miscommunication. So we're not really doing anything to improve the quality of the situation. A small shift that we can make would be, if something's important to you, I'd love to know that. Or even future tense, when something's important to you, I'd love for you to tell me. So we're not adding or piling on to a situation that's already soured a bit. We're instead giving them direction or a choice about what they could do in the future to allow us to be on the same page. So that was the small shift that I wanted to share for the second part of today.
As always, your tips make perfect sense. Probably more so for me, now that I'm retired and no longer coaching. But great sense. And again, for our listeners, if this is your first time listening to Betsy, she was a college athlete, college coach, and now works, with coaches on how and to communicate better. Always great stuff. Always enjoyed listening to what you share with us. And if one of our listeners wants to reach out and pick your brain a little bit more, and I encourage them to do so, how can they get in touch with you?
Sure. They can go to betsybutterick.com. All of my contact info is there. There's a contact form that you can fill out that'll send me an email. You can also contact me on Twitter at Betsy Butterick or on Instagram at Betsy underscore the coach's coach. And for those that want to email me directly, my email is Betsy, Betsy, at Betsy Butterick, Butterick.com. Jake, thanks so much for having me on. It's always great to chat with you.
Oh yeah, always enjoy it. And for our listeners, you need to follow Betsy Butterick on Twitter. Very strong Twitter game. So she's got some great stuff out there. Betsy, thanks again. Look forward to visiting with you next time. For our listeners, remember the Zoom recordings of all of these interviews get uploaded to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. Come back again next Wednesday for more Wednesday wisdom and just about every day on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. We also want to thank Sideline Interactive for their support. Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables and video boards can generate $10,000 or more every year while creating the ultimate game day experience for your athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or call 832-786-0302 to schedule a live web demo and see their tables and boards in action. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com and see exactly what their fantastic products can do for you. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com. We also want to say thanks to Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. You know, they're on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. They've got a variety of interactive touchscreen video consoles and an entire library of templates to help recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. Let them help you showcase your school's diverse history and your proudest moments by going to vitalsignswalloffame.com. You can also call them at 614-981-3589 or email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack for their support. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic program. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack also connects you with the 95% of the parents and the student athletes that really love your program. And it gives them a voice to help demonstrate the importance that a positive athletic experience has for them. Go to athleticsurveys.com and check out their testimonials, and then give them a call at 1-800-738-6466, or you can email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. If you've never used a survey to connect with your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Talk to the folks at Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack and let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. We also want to say thank you to Huddle. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. Over 200,000 teams use Huddle to help elevate the play of their teams using video and analytics. Huddle's the complete performance platform. They have online tools, mobile and desktop apps, smart cameras like the Huddle Focus. There's always been analytics, but there's a whole lot more. Huddle is also built for every level of play, from club and youth teams all the way through high schools and colleges, and even the pros use Huddle to help their teams play better. You're in pretty good company with over 6 million users, including your student athletes and the coaches of the teams you're trying to get to recruit your kids. If you want to find out more about what Huddle can do for you and how your school can become a Huddle school, go to huddle.com and talk to their professionals. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. And we want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. You can find out more about what Hometown Ticketing can do for you and your program by going to hometownticketing.com and talk to their experts. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. Thanks again for listening to this episode of Wednesday Wisdom. We'll see you next week for another episode, and just about every day for new content on the Educational AD Podcast. Thanks again for listening.